Ah, elle est belle. Wow. Super belle. Oh, celle-là est magnifique.
OK, j'arrive. C'est fini. On va faire le choix pour ça et ça d'abord.
Choosing fashion was a glamorous entrance, I think, into the creative world. It was one that had this combination of being creative and yet being, in a way, functional. You know, you wear clothes, you have to wear. It's not something you put on a wall. It exists because someone else kind of endorsed it. And I think for me it was something that I felt in comfort with. I had an idea of the woman I wanted to dress. I had an idea of the aesthetic that I liked and the colors and the volumes and what I did not know or understand was the whole industry behind it and how to survive in it.
Ça, avec ça. Ouais. Ça, c'est
Ouais,
super
c'est
beau
ça qu'on
ensemble.
va faire. OK, parfait.
I think to be a creative person, you have to be an instinctive person. You have to have the instinct to create. It's not something that you can force. It's not something you can study. It's an urge. It's something that, you know, comes naturally. Then to become a fashion designer in the fashion industry, there's steps to it.
C'est super beau, Charlotte.
Rarely has a brand has shown the empowerment of women, and very few women have succeeded in this industry also. It's kind of a motto also. You become a defender of something. Sometimes the clothes can become more you than you think. Regarde ça comment c'est pas possible. Hein? Regarde des mini roses à côté de chaque, c'est fou. Hein? Ceux qui sont pas ouverts. La nature. Hein?
Ça devrait t'en mettre chez vous.
Ben oui, mais ça dure pas longtemps, par exemple.
Ça dure un mois. Ça dure presque 10 jours qu'ils sont là.
Ah oui, je vois qu'il y en a qui ont commencé à faner déjà.
Quand ça sont beaux.
C'est comme des bébites.
Ah, c'est beau, hein?
Ouais, quand ils sont dégradés comme ça, là, c'est ça, c'est beau.
beau, hein? When she was a young girl, Marie, she had a lot of imagination. She's created situation where we like or not, but she created situation that make her different. She was a different girl. She was a different child.
I was a problem kid for my parents, for my father at least I was. My mom understood I was, but I had such a hard time to survive school. It was a daily nightmare for me to go to school. My nose bleed every day when I would go to school because I was so miserable in a school. I didn't understand any of those rules. Luckily, I had artists at the table to understand that I was not alone seeing the world in a different way.
You see, this is a very easy painting to look at. Huh? Easy. Don't you like that? I like that. It's not difficult to understand, but it's so nice. The color is so well. Gordon Harrison. I always been interested by painters, especially Riopelle and some of the men here in Quebec. And in 1968, I won a painting but I'm resting. And this is how I won my first painting of Riopel. And I was so shy. The day after, I went to a gallery and I bought another painting. So we became very good friends, and I built his atelier. We bought that together here. It was always mixed with the family. And not only Riopel, but many other painters came here and mixed with the family.
Corneille.
Corneille.
L'été, il y a de la musique ici, constamment. Faire peur
On
au
passait par là,
Corneille.
on passait en avant de chez Riopel.
Oui, on va aller voir.
On passait en avant de chez Riopel. Alors, il commence mes vignes. Là.
Ça, c'est un passage qu'on a fait souvent, hein? Traverser de là à là.
Oui. Ça, c'est l'atelier de Riopel, qui a été construit en 1974. Was built in 1974.
Is this where Riopel painted?
Yes.
This house where he lived and where he painted too. In the morning, first thing was, okay, whomever gets up first comes to the house.
Because he didn't like to live alone.
No, he didn't like to be alone.
He needed somebody all the time in his life. Somebody near him.
But even more than one, the people he liked to have them almost 24 on. He had a hard time to part with friends, and it was like, okay, when do we see each other next? Tomorrow morning? Like the earliest. He was always in need. When Jean-Paul was here, it was, except for a few hours of sleep, it was non-stop communication between the two houses. He connected with my father almost as a brother, with my mom as a very, very close friend with my mom too. And my mom was an amazing cook, so she was also taking good care of him. And with us, the kids, because we were always around, we were like part of the group. Never it was a question of age. We were the only kids most of the time because, you know, in France and people, the kids don't eat with their parents. But here, all the French ambassadors and gallerists, and they would come here and we would sit at the table and they would be very surprised, and I would sit a lot of the time next to Jean-Paul because he liked my company, and we were always joking. I mean, when in the spring, when the lake is frozen, when I was a kid, I put some hot water to make a hole and to jump in the lake to be the first one. But that's like an inside joke with Jean-Paul, because the first time I think I met him, I said, I'm going to go to the village and I'm going to go buy some candies. And he gave me $100 bills and he said, you better spend it all. And so to come back, I had too many candies to walk back home. And it was a nightmare. So I had to eat them on the space, and it was really too much. So he was always like, okay, how far can you go? I would come here and go to the studio and the painting and the painter and have complete freedom, but at the same time he knew we respect his intimacy and his privacy. So it was not like everything is permitted. When he was painting and he was really like spending days of painting like un glouton, we say in French, like non-stop painting, you'd have to respect that, and then you would not come out of the house for long hours.
I mean, we've been raised I think we've had the greatest childhood any child can have. I mean, we had loving parents. My father worked a lot. We didn't see him that much. But he was always on the go, wanting a new adventure. So he taught us, of the adventure side of always a new project, a new thing. And my mom was the soft, but also the eye.
She was a modern woman. She was really a truly modern woman. Opening up the suitcase when she was coming back from Europe and looking at the few pieces that she bought, it was like totally, nobody was wearing that, and she would come with like those colors and just material, the novelty of it all. I find that that's where I got my taste for fashion. She was always telling me, be independent. Don't be dependent on people. So, of course, seeing that you can be artistically expressive with your clothes and by the way you choose them, for me, resonate. And in probably my first gut of trying to feminize this world. First, it was more the design and the glamour and the fashion shows. And at a very early stage in my career, showing in Paris and being sold in great stores, doing, full pages in magazines and newspapers. So at very early in my career, I felt that, okay, what's next? I became intrigued by my own profession. I became truly passionate about fabric, detail, construction, sewing, like an inventor.
Moi, j'aime celle-là, c'est différent. Mais,
Je te dis, le poids de la matière fait que on travaille à contre-courant de la gravité. On peut ramener les... We are doing the archives right now, so it's a dress that I pick up from the archives. And in that case, I had suspended the dress to counter the effect of the weight of the fabric. By pinning it in a certain way, just working with the gravity, I just try to give it the 3D I wanted to have with the dress. But I would change the material, I would make it in much lighter fabric now that we have evolved over, I guess this dress is almost 10 years old, something like that. So I would see it in a much lighter fabric now, so it would stay more 3D than drapey and heavy.
Marie decided, okay, this is gonna be the volume. So now we're working on 3D. So we take one with this fabric, we work on it, we put the sleeve, we put the belt, we take off the color, we put another color, we mix with another dress. Sometimes we just switch it front to back, back to front, or sometimes we just switch it top, bottom, bottom, top. It's really a game.
It's it goes from one step to another. It's like putting a pin brings you to the next pin. And it's a long process, but it's a fun process. It's like sculpturing a dress. That ability to look at things and say, okay, how can I do it? And how can I do it differently is something that I've learned from looking at artists. art is like food. It's food for your mind. It's food for your spirit. I think when you're surrounded by art, it's hard to see life in a negative way, I find.
Both Marie and I have something that's very similar. We don't really sketch a lot. She grabs, a piece of fabric, she drapes it, she watches it behave. She watches the behavior of the material and the fabric, and she sees its potential. That's pretty much it. When Marie called me to work on her perfume, I loved the idea because it was kind of like understanding a person, and the bottle became a body. So I went through her collections, and I, went through the different structures of collars, because I just thought, I want to build something that maybe looks like a collar. And then I wasn't quite sure this is what I wanted, because it looked a little too feminine. And I just think if you're wearing Marie Saint-Pierre's clothes, and there's something about it that goes beyond the stereotypes, I guess. So this was the final piece that I came up with, and I felt that it really reminded me of Marie Saint-Pierre's structure, and at the same time her intrinsic understanding of materiality.
Est-ce que Chantal, elle vous l'a dit, les encolures d'eau, qu'il faut leur donner un petit peu de...
Non.
Comme la matière est tellement légère, dès qu'il y a un petit millimètre qui... La messe, ça s'en va comme ça. Puis j'ai besoin de... Comme elle n'a pas de poids pour tomber en avant, j'ai comme besoin de travailler l'encolure un petit peu. Oui, essayez-le.
OK, je vais l'essayer.
Okay. She really likes the construction. She really likes what's hidden in the clothing. It's all that she's so powerful at.
Ça va? Oui. Oh, c'est joli, ça. Ça vient, hein?
It's all the underneath. And that's why people love it, because it's the way it's built.
C'est bon? Tu vois? C'est parfait. Là, on va essayer quelque chose. On va le garder près du corps là. On va énormément l'exagérer, énormément. D'accord? Là, double. OK? Ici. Donc, pour aller créer cette espèce de volume-là. Donc, nécessairement, ici, on redescend. Donc là, il va falloir mixer ici avec la courbe là.
Ouais.
Tu vois? Pour que le mouvement qui se passe là, on le ressente d'une autre façon. D'accord. C'est bon? Go?
Go. She works in 3D over there. She brings the shape in 3D to us, and then we have to apply it on a flat 2D shape, but maintaining the intention.
My role of developer is to understand the designer. Technically, to find the right seam, to find the right finishing, to find the right way of sewing it, to go in this inspiration. So it's bring all the technical part in the design parts.
It's a fine balance, and that's why we take so many pictures and details and back and forth, and we try many things, because you can love something at first sight and say, oh, this is it. You have to try to go further, because sometimes maybe you like it because you've done it before.
That's a specific idea with Marie Saint-Pierre, is that you have to get away from your technical capacity in order to keep always this fluid movement over the shapes.
So I became attracted by this connection between the body and the fabric, and also with the idea of movement, the idea that what you design is never still. That movement for me became truly the idea of behind the label.
When I wear a dress from Marie Saint-Pierre, automatically I feel that it just, in French we say épouser le corps, which means to marry the body.
There's a lot of sensuality, there's a lot of femininity, there's strengthness, there's a force. It really comes from her soul, from her heart. And there's also freedom.
I want to do pieces that people just fall in love with. And at one point we called it a woman's movement because it was about clothes that were moving and not clothes that were depriving you, but clothes that permit you to conquer the world.
Since I know Marie, I know that, when I have my dress, when I feel comfortable on it, I know that I have my evening, because it's like une armure, a beautiful armure.
It's not just about image. It's not just about the envelope. It has to go within. And I think we are in 2015 or 2016, we want the clothes to enhance what we really are.
Brilliant mind, very vivacious eye, an impeccable taste. So you put these things together and it's the perfect recipe for success. I think that's the way that she lives, is her life. Everything that she touches is beautiful. It's like she's surrounded by beauty. One night we were having dinner, we were a group of friends, and she had been designing in her placemat, in the paper placemat. And I was really amazed to see that she was designing these tables and chairs of absolute beauty to total perfection of scale, of detail, everything. So I don't think that for her it's a pastime. I think that for her it's her life, like it is to any true artist. I think that she's a designer 24 hours a day. I think that if one day for some anything happens, that $20 million to see something happen to fall on top of her, she would still be doing the same thing that she's doing every day. That would not change her life.
This ability to do things that are balanced within their own shapes is certainly something that I've learned creating clothes. And then I can apply them to wood, to metal, to very heavy things. Because knowledge is not something that you decide to have, it's something that you acquire. And the more you work, the more you acquire knowledge, and that knowledge can be, you never know when it comes and you never know when it does not come. Being in this fast fashion industry where you have to do 6 to 8 collections a year, your brain is one of an Olympic athlete. It wants to create all the time.
The energy is full-blown. Sometimes I have to temper it because people can't follow.
Jack, on va regarder ça. Donc on garde tel que. Dans une autre version, on va le transformer en bomber. Zip invisible, donc zip jusqu'en bas et push. Marie push me, I push the team. So everybody push everybody to go higher and higher. Donc c'est d'ici à ici. Ici, tu touches pas. Tu comprends?
Ouais.
On one side, it's fun, but on the other side, we are really stressed.
Les intérieurs ne bougent pas. Ils sont déjà faits, on a déjà des piles.
Fait que là, ça m'y prend, par exemple, parce que moi, j'ai fait des commandes qui vont quelque part.
The other day, I told her, you will always be not happy. Because she said, you know, there's something you didn't order in one color in production. And I really like that color. For me, it makes a big difference. And I said, Marie, well, you know, we need to make choices. She's so creative. But at one point, the market can take so much and we can do so much. You know, limited resources and, okay, what's your objective?
It's a battle, but it's also attention, which is always interesting in when you create something. Creativity is about not having exactly what you want and trying to battle things and make it better. Since I started in '87, there's been turmoil in this industry, and certainly the Quebec fashion designer scene has seen more than its share of bad news and of ups and downs, and it's been a very rocky road for people here. Something a long time ago, and I think it was a warning he gave me. He said to me, move out of here. And I said, why? You know, he said, well, because people here will not like your success. At the time when I was thinking about moving to Paris for my career, I got pregnant, and all of a sudden the decision was taken without me. Like, I'm gonna stay around by my parents. I need someone to come at 5 o'clock and keep the kids from, you know, back from school and to wait till 11 when I come back from work.
Oui, allô?
Oui, Marie, c'est Alexandre.
Salut, Alexandre.
Ouais, j'ai une question rapide pour vous concernant les condos.
So staying in Montreal became not a decision, it just made more sense. Whether it was the right move or the right decision, personally was certainly the right decision. Business-wise, I don't think it was the best decision to stay here.
OK, merci, bye.
Bye-bye.
The biggest Achilles heel that we have here is the fact that we cannot acknowledge people's work before it's a worldwide commercial success. Why do I continue? It comes back to why I started doing it at first, I think, is to maybe try to make it possible for a woman to be behind a fashion house, a luxury house in Quebec, and be proud of it in all aspects of it. It all belongs to me, my team, my family, everybody around me that built it that.
I knew that she was going to do something good, something well, because she was working. She's a worker, she's a thinker, and she works all the time.
I think what we're doing, which is even more important, is we're creating an infrastructure, a bit like Cirque du Soleil did. I mean, they just didn't do circus and shows abroad, they developed a whole industry here. We are developing a whole industry, which is the luxury industry in Montreal.
I was once with the designer of Burberry from London. She was in Montreal, and I took her to Marie's store. And right away she went to one of the racks and picked up a piece and look at it, look at the endings, look at the seams. And she told me, this is done like haute couture.
Luxury with simplicity. And what is very good about Marie Saint-Pierre is that whatever she does, it actually passed the test of time.
And this outfit still, very hot today. It's timeless, it was very, not trendy, but it was beautiful like 5 years ago, and it's still beautiful, it's still fashionable. You can take your clothes and bring it to Paris or New York. There is this quality of clothes, it could be international,
I mean, there was a buyer in Toronto of Haute Renfrew, and she said to Marie recently, she says, I don't know what's in your clothes, but there's a cult. There's something in there. When people put it on, then they become addicted to it. I don't know how many other designers in Canada have had, the depth of the designs and the work she's done and the creativity of the new things. I mean, she's been copying worldwide on a number of things that we see.
We always need a reference. And I think Marie is the perfect example of success, longevity, craftness. So in that fact, to play the role as a mentor in our industry became very important.
I'm not about the business. I'm more about a brand, a house. I wanted to be a place where I can nurture, whether they're pattern makers, whether they are hand sewers or cutters, giving them a house to earn a living, work their passion, and transmit it to others has become, I think, something that I felt I had to do. When you receive a lot, you have to look around and see where there's a miss. And when I moved my studio to this one of the poorest quartiers in Montreal, the Saint-Ambroise studio, I was in Saint-Henri. It spoke to me that I saw kids running around with poorly dressed for the winter condition, having to deal with a hard life right from the start of their morning. Let's not talk about going to school, being in an environment of food. And so I decided to create the Fond sous Zéro and to get people to connect and see that there is something that we must change. I just find that there's too little artists on committees everywhere. There should be more and more women on boards, but more artists also on boards. Definitely more artists on boards that will look at things in a perspective that no one else has looked at, because he wants to change things for the better. So for me, Mew has that component of not only inviting artists to be present in your life, in the street, but also because they also have a mentoring program where they help kids that are tagging and help them to do constructive artwork. It's like a magical pill. It works better than any pills any doctor can prescribe, I can tell you that. I've seen it around. I've seen a lot of troubled kids in my life. Me being one and seeing all the ones that were my friends at the time were all troubled kids too. But be in the presence of artists, it changed everything. Having Riopelle in my life convinced me that you can take risks and that you only respond to yourself at the end. If you choose an artistic path, you have to endorse it. Choosing fashion for me was kind of a derivative way maybe to do it at the beginning. I wasn't, I could have been a sculptor, I could have been a painter, I could have decided to do movies, I could have decided to... The tools that I could use to nourish my creativity was up to me. I consider the clothes I do to have that dimension of creativity that belongs to me. Any creative process, how much of you is in the end result, and is the end result more you than you are? It's always a question.